The envelope sat on my desk like a loaded gun, its edges sharp against the white paper, as if it were daring me to open it. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I'd been staring at it for over 20 minutes, my coffee long forgotten and now lukewarm, my hands steady, yet everything inside me was churning. Inside the envelope was more than just a stack of papers. There were flight confirmations, hotel receipts, and a series of bank statements, innocent documents on the surface. But to me, they were fragments of a story, a puzzle I had never thought I'd need to solve. A story that my wife, Rachael, had believed I would never piece together. But I was good with numbers. I always had been. Numbers had always been my refuge, the one language I could trust in a world where everything else seemed to slip through my fingers like sand. That's what happens when you spend a decade of your life hunched over financial reports in a sterile gray cubicle at Metropolitan Finance Group, a job that had taught me more than just the art of number crunching. It had sharpened my instincts, taught me how to analyze patterns, anticipate shifts, and understand the stories buried beneath data that most people would never notice. It's a skill that served me well, and now it was leading me down a path I hadn't expected to walk. My name is David Weller, and 3 weeks ago, I discovered my wife was having an affair. It didn't hit me all at once. No dramatic confrontation or bombshell revelation. It started small, like a whisper that gradually grew louder until it consumed everything. It began with subtle changes, Rachael coming home later than usual, her excuse being that department meetings had run longer than expected. I didn't question it at first. Work can be demanding after all. But then, the little things started to pile up. Her phone, which had always been carelessly left lying around, was now angled away from me whenever she texted. She started wearing a new perfume, one I'd never smelled before. I made a mental note of it, but didn't think much more about it. Then came the gym membership. She'd signed up for a subscription to a fitness center she'd never mentioned, and when I asked her about it, she brushed it off casually, claiming it was just something she was trying out. I'm not a jealous man by nature. In fact, I've always prided myself on being calm, level-headed. But I've also learned to observe, to read between the lines. You don't survive in the cutthroat world of corporate politics without learning to decipher people's true intentions. So, I started digging. I began with our joint account, something I had rarely had reason to look at before. Rachael made a decent income as a college professor, specializing in literature and women's studies, but the transactions on our account began to raise questions. Small withdrawals, 500 here, 800 there, popping up at random intervals. Cash, always cash. I didn't know what to make of it at first, but I couldn't ignore the unease gnawing at the back of my mind. Then, one day, I stumbled upon something I hadn't been expecting. A credit card. A credit card I didn't know existed, tucked away in the glove compartment of her car, hidden among the registration papers. The statement was damning. There were charges at upscale restaurants I didn't recognize, boutique hotels in the city where I knew we'd never stayed. Even more troubling were the purchases from lingerie shops that she had previously claimed were too expensive. But it wasn't until I took the next step, something that felt almost too invasive, that I found the evidence that confirmed my worst fears. I installed tracking software on our shared iPad. I knew it was a legal gray area, maybe even a breach of trust, but I needed to know. Rachael used it for work emails, and she never suspected that I was watching. That's how I found the messages, the incriminating messages, from Ethan Harris. Ethan, her college ex-boyfriend, the one who had always loomed like a shadow in the background of our relationship. He was now a successful entrepreneur, having sold some tech startup for a small fortune, and he'd gained a reputation that only made him more attractive in her eyes. They'd reconnected at her university reunion 6 months ago, and it seemed innocent at first, a casual coffee catch-up, nothing more. But it didn't stay innocent for long. What had started as a simple exchange of pleasantries had quickly escalated into something far more intimate. Weekend getaways, afternoon hotel visits, while I sat in meeting after meeting about quarterly projections, unaware of the storm brewing just outside my line of sight. The messages were explicit, detailed. Rachael, my wife of 10 years, was writing things to him she'd never said to me. The passion, the longing, the promises of something that felt real, something that felt alive. But more than the explicit content of those messages, it was the contempt that cut the deepest. She called me boring. She said I lacked ambition, that she had made a mistake marrying someone so ordinary. Ordinary. That word echoed in my skull for days. It gnawed at me, cutting deeper with every thought. I could have confronted her immediately. I could have thrown the evidence in her face, demanded answers, and let the anger that was simmering inside me boil over. That's what the old David would have done. But something shifted in me when I read those messages. Something cold, something detached, settled into my chest where rage should have been. It wasn't anger that consumed me anymore. It was clarity. I realized, in that moment, that I wasn't the one who had made a mistake. She had, and I was going to make her regret it, but not in the way she expected. I decided to play a different game, a game where the rules were mine to dictate. For 2 weeks, I became the perfect husband. I did everything right. I brought Rachael coffee in bed every morning, the kind she liked, strong, black, with just a hint of sweetness. I complimented her outfits, even the ones I'd never given a second glance before, making sure to note how great she looked, how radiant she was. I asked about her day with an interest that bordered on genuine, making her believe that I was more involved in her life than I'd been in months. I listened carefully when she talked about her students or her research, asking follow-up questions and giving thoughtful responses. The more I gave, the more she took it, no doubt relieved that I wasn't questioning her. Relieved that, at least for the time being, she thought she had gotten away with it. She never suspected a thing. She didn't know that while I was playing the role of the attentive, loving husband, I was simultaneously laying the groundwork for something much more intricate. I had a plan now, and I was executing it with the precision of someone who knew the stakes. Meanwhile, I planned. I called in a favor from Marcus. Marcus had always been the tech guy in the office, the one everyone went to when they needed something done in the digital world, whether it was fixing a computer or more. Clandestine tasks. Marcus owed me, big time. I had helped him navigate a messy divorce a few years back, even going so far as to help him hide assets from his ex-wife's lawyers. He had promised to return the favor, and now was the time for him to deliver. He set me up with software that cloned Rachael's phone to mine. Every text, every call, every GPS location, every piece of information that passed through her device was now mirrored in real time to an encrypted app that only I could access. It was the perfect surveillance tool, and I watched it all unfold with a calm detachment. The first few days were an overwhelming rush of data, endless texts, long phone calls, and untraceable locations. But slowly, patterns began to emerge. It was like reading a spreadsheet, the cells of her life filling in, giving me an exact map of her movements. Tuesdays and Thursdays, she'd tell me she had office hours until 7, but the GPS would place her at Ethan's downtown loft, just a few blocks from her office. Saturdays, she claimed she had department brunches, but my app showed her checking into upscale restaurants, followed by hotel visits. She hadn't even bothered to hide the fact that she was spending entire days with him. The affair had a rhythm, a predictable cadence to it. There was no spontaneity, no attempts to cover her tracks. That made it vulnerable. I also began documenting everything. I wasn't just collecting data, I was building a case. I took screenshots of texts and calls, printed out bank statements and receipts, even retrieved discarded invoices from the trash. Nothing was left to chance. I built a file so thick it could bury her in divorce court. But divorce wasn't enough. No, I wanted more than that. I wanted to take her down in a way that would make her feel everything I felt. The betrayal, the humiliation, the utter devastation of realizing that the person you trusted the most had ripped your life apart without a second thought. I wanted her to feel what I felt. Betrayed, worthless, destroyed. The idea came to me during a particularly boring budget meeting. I had spent the last half hour tuning out my coworkers as they droned on about projections and expenditures. My mind was elsewhere, thinking about everything I had learned about the path I was now committed to walking. Then, like a lightning strike, the idea hit me. A couple's game night. Something innocent. Something fun. We'd host a game night. I'd invite our friends, Rachel's colleagues from the university, some of my coworkers, and a few other people whose opinions she valued. I'd chosen the kind of game that everyone was obsessed with these days, one of those trendy question games that forces people to be honest, that breaks down the walls between friends and partners. It was the perfect setup, nothing too aggressive, nothing overtly confrontational, just enough of an opening to get people talking. I could feel the trap slowly coming together in my mind. Then I'd spring it. I suggested the idea over dinner one night, careful to act casual, as if it were a suggestion that had just occurred to me. "What do you think about hosting a couple's game night?" I asked, my voice light and easy. "It could be fun. We could invite a few of your colleagues, some of my coworkers. You know, people we don't see much outside of work." Rachel's face lit up, her eyes brightening at the idea. "That sounds perfect," she said, her smile wide and genuine. At least, it seemed that way at the time. "It'll be good for us to socialize. You've been so withdrawn lately, David. It'll be nice for you to get out of your shell a little." Right. I'd been withdrawn. It took everything I had to keep my face neutral as she spoke. I felt the sting of her words, but I didn't show it. She had no idea what I was planning. She thought I was just trying to make things right. We set the date for Friday night, and I spent the week preparing. I bought expensive wine, carefully arranged for catering, and made sure every detail was flawless. The apartment had to look pristine, like I wasn't just trying to impress her friends, but her too. I made sure everything was perfect, just the way she liked it. Let her think that was the reason for all the effort. Let her think I was trying to impress her. By 8 o'clock Friday, our living room buzzed with conversation. 12 people total, all drinking wine and nibbling on cheese plates. Rachel's colleague, Amanda, held court near the fireplace, discussing some academic controversy I didn't care about. My coworker, Stephen, tried to impress everyone with stock market predictions. Normal, boring, suburban socializing. Rachel looked radiant. She'd worn a black dress that hugged her figure, styled her auburn hair in loose waves. She worked the room like a politician, charming and attentive. Several times I caught her checking her phone, probably texting Ethan, who she'd told couldn't make it tonight. A convenient lie. Around 9, I suggested we play the game. Everyone gathered in the living room, settling onto couches and chairs arranged in a circle. I distributed cards with questions, some silly, some serious, all designed to provoke honest answers. The rules were simple. Draw a card, read it aloud, everyone answers in turn. The first few rounds stayed light. "What's your most embarrassing moment? If you could have dinner with anyone living or dead, who would it be?" People laughed, shared stories, drank more wine. Then Rachel drew a card. "Would you marry your spouse again, knowing everything you know now?" The room quieted slightly. It was more intimate than previous questions, but not invasive. Just interesting enough to create drama. Amanda answered first. "Absolutely. Greg's my best friend." Her husband beamed. Stephen and his wife Jennifer both said yes, adding sweet comments about growth and partnership. Then Rachel's turn came. She held the card, studying it like an exam question. Finally she laughed, a sound without real humor. "Honestly? No, absolutely not, never again." The room froze. Someone coughed. Amanda's eyes went wide. I smiled. That's honest, I said calmly. Rachael shrugged, already backtracking. I mean, not that I'm unhappy, just that if I knew everything, I'd probably make different choices. We all would, right? That's the point of experience. But the damage was done. Everyone stared at her, then at me, unsure how to react. Actually, I said, standing up, I appreciate Rachel's honesty. In fact, I've been thinking about honesty a lot lately. I walked to the bookshelf and retrieved an envelope I'd hidden behind a row of novels. Thick, manila, sealed with tape. I held it up for everyone to see. This contains some interesting reading material. Flight confirmations showing Rachael took 3 trips to Miami in the last 4 months. Hotel receipts from the Ritz-Carlton downtown, dated on days she told me she was attending faculty conferences. Bank statements showing $8,000 withdrawn from our joint account for purposes I wasn't aware of. I paused, looking directly at Rachael. Her face had gone chalk white. And photographs. Lots of photographs. David, she started. I'm not finished. My voice stayed level, almost pleasant. The most interesting part isn't the affair itself. It's the text messages where you discuss how boring I am, how ordinary, how much you regret marrying someone without ambition. That's the word you used. Ordinary. Rachael stood abruptly, wine sloshing from her glass onto the carpet. You went through my phone? I did. I opened the envelope, pulled out printouts, and scattered them on the coffee table like playing cards. Screenshots of explicit messages, receipts, GPS location data showing her at Ethan's address. It's all here, everything. Your entire affair with Ethan Harris, documented and time-stamped. Amanda picked up one of the photos, Rachael and Ethan kissing outside a restaurant, her hand on his chest. She dropped it like it burned. This is insane, Rachael said, voice shaking. You can't just, everyone needs to leave, now. But nobody moved. They stared at the evidence, at her, at me. The silence was beautiful. I think everyone should stay, I said. After all, Rachael wanted honesty. This is honest. This is the truth about our marriage. I turned to our guests. My wife has been having an affair for 6 months. She's drained our savings to fund hotel rooms and romantic getaways, while I worked 60-hour weeks to keep us comfortable. And tonight, in front of all of you, she said she wouldn't marry me again. So I think it's time we all acknowledge reality. Rachel's hands trembled. You're humiliating me. No, I said quietly. You humiliated yourself. I'm just providing documentation. She grabbed her purse and coat, tears streaming down her face, and rushed for the door. It slammed behind her with enough force to rattle the windows. The sound echoed in the sudden silence. Amanda was the first to speak. David, I'm so sorry. Don't be. I gathered the papers, placed them back in the envelope. I'm not the one who should be apologizing. The party dissolved after that. People left quickly, offering awkward condolences I didn't need. Within 30 minutes, the house was empty except for me and the evidence of Rachel's betrayal scattered across my coffee table. I poured myself a whiskey and sat alone in the quiet, smiling. This was just the beginning. Rachael didn't come home that night. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I didn't call. Instead, I executed phase 2. Early Saturday morning, I drove to Ethan's building, a converted warehouse in the Arts District with overpriced lofts and pretentious coffee shops on the ground floor. His silver Lexus sat in the parking garage, exactly where Rachel's GPS had shown it countless times. I'd come prepared. The tire iron felt solid in my hand as I approached the car. The parking garage was empty, security cameras conveniently angled away from this particular spot. I'd scouted it twice this week, timing the security guard's rounds, noting blind spots. I swung hard. The driver's side window exploded, glass cascading onto leather seats. Then the passenger side, back windows, windshield. Each impact sent satisfaction coursing through me. I didn't rush. took my time with each window, making sure nothing remained intact. Then I spray-painted a message across the hood in thick black letters. Stay away from other men's wives. I left the tire iron on the ground beside the car and walked away calmly, hands in my pockets, just another guy out for a morning stroll. By noon, I'd filed for divorce. My lawyer, a shark named Patricia Chen I'd researched extensively, took one look at my documentation and smiled. This is gift-wrapped, she said. Your wife's affair is well documented, the financial infidelity is clear, and you're the primary earner. We'll destroy her in court. I want the house, I said, and I want her removed from all joint accounts immediately. Consider it done. I froze our joint accounts that afternoon, changed the locks on the house by evening. Rachel's belongings, clothes, books, laptop, everything, I packed into boxes and left on the front porch with a note. You're not welcome here anymore. Divorce papers are being filed Monday. My lawyer will be in touch. She called me 16 times that night. I blocked her number. But Ethan, I left unblocked. I wanted him to call, to threaten, to give me an excuse for what came next. Monday morning, I received the call I'd been waiting for. This is Ethan Harris. His voice was smooth, confident, the voice of a man used to controlling conversations. I think we should talk. About what? I was in my office reviewing spreadsheets, phone on speaker. About how you vandalized my car. That's a crime, David. Is it? I wouldn't know anything about that. Don't play games. I know it was you. Prove it. I leaned back in my chair, smiling at the ceiling. I was home all Saturday morning. Alone, unfortunately, since my wife was presumably with you. But my credit card statements show I ordered takeout that was delivered to my house at 8:30. That's time-stamped. Security footage from the restaurant will confirm it. Silence on the other end. I'd actually had the food delivered while I was destroying his car, a simple alibi that would hold up if he pushed it. What do you want? Ethan asked finally. I want you to suffer. I want you to understand what it feels like to have someone you trust destroy your life. But mostly, I want you gone. Rachel's an adult. She made her choice. Did she? I kept my voice conversational. Or did you manipulate a bored woman having a midlife crisis? I've done my research on you, Ethan. You're good at that. Manipulation, reading vulnerabilities and exploiting them. You did it with that tech startup you sold. Convinced investors to buy a product you knew was flawed, then cashed out before the lawsuit started. You're currently facing 3 separate fraud investigations. That's public record, by the way. Easy to find if someone knows where to look. Another pause. Longer this time. You're bluffing. I'm really not. In fact, I've compiled everything I found into a nice dossier. Financial records, testimony from your ex-business partners, emails showing you knew the product had security flaws. I haven't decided what to do with it yet. Maybe send it to the SEC, maybe post it online where investors can find it, maybe just sit on it and watch you sweat. That's blackmail. No, it's leverage. There's a difference. I closed my laptop, suddenly tired of this conversation. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stop seeing Rachel. You're going to block her number, ignore her calls, and disappear from her life completely. If you don't, that dossier goes public, and your already shaky reputation collapses entirely. Your choice. I hung up before he could respond. 3 hours later, Rachael showed up at my office. Security called first. There's a Rachael Weller here to see you. Should I send her up? No. Tell her I'm in meetings all day. But Rachael wasn't taking no for an answer. She bypassed security somehow and appeared outside my office, hair disheveled, eyes red from crying. My assistant Karen looked alarmed. You can't do this, Rachael said, pushing past Karen into my office. You can't just throw me out of our home. I can, actually. My lawyer confirmed it. The house is in my name. You're not on the deed. That's a technicality. It's the law. I didn't acknowledge her distress. You cheated. You stole from our joint account. You humiliated me. Did you think there wouldn't be consequences? I made a mistake. Her voice broke. I was confused, unhappy. So you betrayed me instead of talking to me. That was your choice. David, please. She moved closer, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. I'll end things with Ethan. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't do this. It's already done. I pulled the divorce papers from my desk drawer and slid them across the surface. Sign these. Move out. Move on. She stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. You're really throwing away 10 years? You threw them away when you climbed into bed with another man. I met her eyes, let her see the coldness there. I'm just cleaning up the mess. The next 2 weeks became a study in systematic destruction. First, I leaked information about Rachel's affair to key people in her department. Nothing overt, just careful conversations with the right colleagues, dropped hints about her questionable ethics, questions about whether someone conducting an affair could ethically teach courses on feminist theory and moral philosophy. Academia thrives on reputation. Hers started crumbling. Her department chair called her in for a meeting. Rachel texted me furiously afterward. You're destroying my career. Are you happy now? I didn't respond. Then I targeted Ethan. The dossier I'd compiled went to 3 different business journalists who specialized in tech fraud. I sent it anonymously, through encrypted email, with enough details to verify, but nothing traceable back to me. Within a week, articles appeared questioning his business practices, his previous dealings, the legitimacy of his success. His reputation took a hit. Investors pulled back. Partnerships dissolved. I tracked it all through public records and news reports, each development bringing grim satisfaction. Rachael tried to see me multiple times. She showed up at the house, banging on doors I'd reinforced. She waited outside my office building. She sent emails alternating between apologetic and furious. I ignored all of it. Let her feel helpless. Let her understand what powerlessness tastes like. My lawyer Patricia called with updates. The divorce is proceeding smoothly. Given the evidence of infidelity and financial misconduct, she has no real defense. You'll keep the house, your retirement accounts, and she'll be liable for half the credit card debt she racked up. It's about as clean as these things get. How long until it's finalized? 3 months, maybe 4. She's trying to negotiate, but she has no leverage. 3 months. I could wait 3 months. Meanwhile, life continued. I went to work, attended meetings, performed my job with the same competence I'd always shown. Colleagues asked if I was okay. They'd heard rumors about the separation. I gave vague answers, played the wounded husband with dignity. People sympathized. Some offered to set me up with friends. I declined politely. I wasn't interested in moving on. Not yet. 2 months into the divorce proceedings, Rachael made one last desperate play. She showed up at my office on a Tuesday afternoon, but this time she wasn't hysterical. She was calm, composed, wearing a conservative dress and minimal makeup. She looked like the woman I'd married, responsible, intelligent, reasonable. I need to talk to you, she said through Karen. 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking. Against my better judgment, I agreed. She sat across from my desk, hands folded in her lap, and for a moment neither of us spoke. The silence stretched, heavy with 10 years of history and 6 months of betrayal. I'm sorry, she said finally, for all of it, for the affair, for what I said, for hurting you. You didn't deserve that. No, I agreed. I didn't. I was selfish. I got caught up in feeling young again, in the attention, in the fantasy of what my life could have been if I'd made different choices. But it was just fantasy. You're real. What we had was real. Was, I emphasized, past tense. It doesn't have to be. She leaned forward, eyes searching mine. We could fix this. Go to counseling, rebuild trust, start over. People do it all the time. I studied her face, looking for the manipulation, the angle. Part of me wanted to believe she meant it. 10 years doesn't evaporate just because you want it to. We'd built a life together, shared memories, inside jokes, a history that mattered, even if it ended badly. But I'd read her messages to Ethan. I knew what she really thought of me, and I'd crossed too many lines to turn back now. "No," I said simply. Her face crumpled. "David, you called me ordinary. You said I lacked ambition, that you'd made a mistake marrying me. You can't unsay those things. You can't undo what happened in those hotel rooms paid for with my money. There's no coming back from that." I was angry, confused. "You were honest." I stood, signaling the conversation was over. "Maybe for the first time in months you were actually honest about how you felt. I'm not interested in rebuilding with someone who thinks I'm beneath them." "That's not what I meant." "Yes, it was. And that's okay. We wanted different things, became different people. The marriage was probably doomed anyway. You just accelerated the timeline." I walked to the door, opened it. "The divorce will be finalized in 6 weeks. After that, we never have to see each other again. That's the only future I'm interested in." She sat there for another moment, tears streaming down her face, then gathered herself and left. I watched her walk away and felt nothing. No regret, no satisfaction. Just emptiness where emotion used to be. Collateral damage, I supposed. The price of revenge. The divorce finalized on a Wednesday in March. I sat in Patricia's office while she walked me through the final paperwork. The house was mine. My retirement accounts were intact. Rachael kept her car and her personal belongings, but little else. She'd signed everything without contest, probably too exhausted to fight anymore. "That's it," Patricia said, handing me the decree. "You're officially single." I looked at the document, my signature next to Rachael's, and felt the weight of finality. 10 years reduced to legal jargon and property division. "How do you feel?" Patricia asked. "Empty," I admitted. She nodded like she'd heard it before. "That's normal. Revenge rarely feels as good as people think it will. But you protected yourself. That matters." I left her office and drove to my house. Just my house now. No shared pronouns. It was late afternoon, spring sunshine warming the air, and the neighborhood looked peaceful. Normal. Like nothing had changed, even though everything had. Inside, I poured whiskey and sat in the living room where the game night had happened. The furniture was the same, but the pictures were gone. I'd packed away anything that reminded me of Rachael: wedding photos, vacation snapshots, the accumulated evidence of a decade together. The walls looked bare, but honest. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You destroyed my life. I hope you're satisfied." Rachael, from a new phone. I considered responding, then deleted the message instead. There was nothing left to say. A second text arrived moments later. "Ethan left me. Said I was too much drama, that the publicity from your leaks made me toxic. He blocked my number. So congratulations. You won." I stared at the words, waiting for satisfaction to arrive. It didn't. Just more emptiness, vast and cold. I didn't respond to that message either. Instead, I finished my whiskey and walked outside to the porch. The evening air was cool, fresh with the smell of cut grass and blooming flowers. Somewhere nearby, kids played basketball, their voices carrying on the breeze. Normal sounds, normal life. I'd gotten my revenge. Rachael's career was damaged, her relationship destroyed, her reputation in tatters. Ethan's business prospects had dimmed considerably, his name now associated with fraud allegations that would follow him for years. And me? I had my house, my job, my dignity restored. But I'd also become someone I didn't recognize, someone who could methodically dismantle another person's life without flinching, someone who chose cruelty over forgiveness, vengeance over healing. The price of being ordinary, I supposed. When people underestimate you, when they think you're too boring to fight back, they don't see the knife until it's already between their ribs. I thought about calling Rachael, about saying something that might bring closure. But what would I say? Sorry for destroying you after you destroyed me? The math was balanced now. Pain for pain. Betrayal for betrayal. Instead, I went back inside, locked the door, and poured another drink. Tomorrow I'd go to work, attend meetings, analyze spreadsheets. Life would continue in its ordinary way. But I'd always know what I was capable of when pushed far enough. And that knowledge would stay with me, a cold weight in my chest, long after the satisfaction of revenge had faded. Some victories cost more than their worth. But I'd won nonetheless.